Alrighty, good morning everybody. Welcome to Managing Diverse Teams and Digital Volunteering. We're so excited that we are able to deliver this as a webinar and adapt the content as it was meant to be an in-person workshop. So thank you all for being here, and if you're watching this later on from a recording, thank you for supporting LEAP and we hope you really enjoy it. So my name is Emily Sparks and I am the Events and Communications Coordinator for LEAP, and with me I have Emily Mierisch. Now she is our wonderful, wonderful host today and she'll be facilitating this webinar. So I'll just give you a little bit of background on Emily. So she's the coordinator of volunteer programs at the State Library of New South Wales. She's previously been employed by the Art Gallery of New South Wales, Sculpture by the Sea, Dulwich Picture Gallery, the V&A Museum Victoria. So Emily has a degree in fine arts, Diploma of Education, and extensive experience in volunteer coordination and management. We're so excited that she's here with us, and I hope you're excited too. So Em, I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you.
Cool.
So first of all, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we all stand and pay my respects and our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And also, thank you to the LEAP team for their digital support, but also for the invitation, the kind invitation to present to you today. Also, a huge thank you to the online participants. I can see your names there, and although I can't see your faces, it's quite an honour to have your digital time here, your precious screen time that you've dedicated to meet with me today. So who, where and why? Who am I? Emily gave quite a glowing example of my experience, and it's all true. I do have extensive experience in volunteer coordination. I've been at the library for 7 years, and indeed that's where I am right now. I have also worked interstate with, as we mentioned, Museum Victoria. I am Victorian, so if that means that there's a drop-off now of participants, I completely understand. I am from another place. Also international experience. When we say Dulwich, that's Dulwich in the UK, working with volunteers there as well, but also within the visual arts. Where am I? Now, I did say I am at the library, and in particular, I'm in the Friends Room of the State Library. Now, the Friends Room is quite a nice space for, of course, me to talk from because it is book-lined and you get a sense that I am indeed at the State Library. But why am I broadcasting from the library and not my living room, to show you that I am indeed adhering to social distancing? I'm here because I've got really bad internet connection. Hopefully you have better internet connection than me. So I might speak slowly to allow for those of you with any lagging. But I'm here at the library because I've got bad connection, but that brings me to a really important point, which is digital equity, or in some cases, inequity. So one of the things I'll be talking about indeed is how that impacts on volunteering, and I think that's quite an important thing to discuss. Just as a side, the collection that is behind me is the Cervantes collection, donated by Dr. Hanneman. It is over 1,100 copies of Don Quixote, all of it, in many different languages, in many different editions. And what it does is it shows you the quirkiness of philanthropy. And I think you'll also find that in volunteer coordination as well, the quirkiness of what people give. Sometimes it's not something that you would expect or anticipate or indeed sometimes want, but things are offered. But in this case, the library gladly accepted from Dr. Hanneman Don Quixote, and it surrounds the entire room. So hopefully you'll have an opportunity to join me here at the State Library, and you can see these books and be in this room, and I'll of course send a link about that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was physical distancing, and at the moment we're trying to rephrase that. We're trying to say, we want to say physical distancing, not social distancing. So although we're not physically together, socially we need to find that connectedness, and I think that's more than ever that's important within the volunteer community. You're not near your volunteers, but how can you reach out and connect with them? One thing I've been doing that's been working for me is the usual, emails, newsletters, updates and what have you. But I've found that texting, strangely, just a simple text message, it seems to get through and connect to volunteers. There must be something with that personal side. So that's something that I've found. Now, with the time that we have today, I'm going to talk about three. I'll get to 4 if we've got time, but I want to talk about 3 digital programs that we have here at the library. These digital programs, the volunteers work on them. They've been running for a while, so they're established. And so that positions the library in quite an enviable spot when we can't have our volunteers on site, because we do have a rich digital program and we have digitised a lot of our collection. So as I said, in the time we have, we'll talk about these 3 digital programs. If we've got time, I might sneak in another one. When I talk about these programs, we're going to pause. So if there's any questions you have, I'm going to pause 3 times. So it'll give you an opportunity to ask questions or offer comments, because as I know, as we are all peers and we all have quite similar experiences with dealing with volunteers, even though our tasks may vary, our volunteers are quite similar in terms of the styles of management. So when I go through these projects as well, I'm hopefully going to share with you some transferable skills and through my tips, and also because of the experience that I have, so fingers crossed. So the first project I want to talk to you about is our transcription tool. Now the library has 13 linear kilometres of handwritten manuscripts. Now, when you digitise these and you put them available on the internet, they are, of course, static images. And what we have always asked volunteers to do is to transcribe those manuscripts for us. Now, I have an image of, to give you a little sense of these manuscripts. Now, as you can see, hopefully, they're quite dense with 17th or 18th century, 19th century handwriting. This one that you're looking at is actually written in French. It's the Surin papers. And so we've digitized that, but then we need to transcribe it. Now, in the case of this piece, we want to transcribe that and also translate that. As you can imagine, this is not a simple task. And so that draws quite a particular type of volunteer, dedicated and skilled to transcribe that. So I'll give you a sense of how that's done through my next slide. So as you can see here, hopefully, one side is the manuscript and the other side is the transcription, so the written and the typed in. So when I refer to a transcription of a manuscript, this is the visual I'd like you to have in your mind. So we've been transcribing for a while, and originally volunteers have had the picture, their scanned image, and then they would have a Word document opened and they would just type away, and it didn't really matter what level of digital literacy you had, because we had a Word document and a scanned picture. We even had links straight from the desktop, so they didn't even have to try and find a file. All they needed the capacity to do was to read handwriting and then type it out. Then in 2013, the library was given an immense budget to digitise the collection further and to develop a transcription tool. Now, this tool is now available online. So rather than just having a little simple Word document and a scanned image, it was available for anybody and everybody. Indeed, you can do this and your volunteers can too. Log on to our website and start transcribing. Now, this journey that we made in terms of moving from something that was static and quite simple to crowdsourcing had its challenges, as you can imagine. And so when you move to crowdsourcing, when you move online, indeed, some of you are probably experiencing that right now. Something that was quite simple that they could sit at a computer now is through Gmail, Google Docs, Teams, and it can be overwhelming. So that process of moving to can be really difficult. One thing that's worked for me, and probably all of you as well, is constant patience and understanding that even though it might be simple for me, it could be quite overwhelming for our volunteers. Another challenge that we had was when something went digital, it went global, everybody was allowed to do it. The sense of preciousness of the task was somewhat challenged. I think when you sit at a computer and you're on site, you feel connected and you feel that there's value and there's worth. Whereas when it is crowdsourced and wider, individuals can struggle with that. When they've struggled, and indeed, as I said, you might be finding this right now with your volunteers, we need to reinforce the fact that this is supposed to be for pleasure, this is supposed to be for joy, and that as long as it takes to go through the steps, that you'll do that with an individual. So it is quite a challenge. So as I showed before, there was a screen. It was half of the manuscript and half of the transcription tool. And that manuscript I showed you, and I'll bring it up again, I'll share the screen, is one of our diaries. So William Ifold, one of the previous state librarians, put out a call after World War I saying, could you please send in any diaries that you might have as returned soldiers or family of deceased soldiers. And so the library was overwhelmed by these diaries. Some of them were purchased, some of them were donated. And to commemorate World War I, we have completed transcribing all the diaries. Now, why would volunteers want to do this? And why would the library ask for this to be done? One of the reasons that we've done it is that as soon as you put it into text, as you can see on the screen, that's then searchable. And so if you wanted to search for particular people, or phrases, or locations, that's now searchable. Why would volunteers want to do it? Honestly, it's like an itch. They just they want to scratch. They love it. It's addictive. It's compulsive. And also if you're a pedant as well, it's quite exciting to just get it just so. Some of them wanted to correct the text. Again, this is not required. You have to, regardless of the soldier's grammar or spelling, you need to pass that on word for word. Volunteers also really enjoyed going along the journey with the soldier from beginning to end. Sadly, some of the diaries stop, and that is because of the death of a soldier. So there is quite an emotional content to it. Some of the soldiers are quite dry in the way they talk about it. Some of them are quite brief, and there's a brevity there, so you read between the lines. So it's an opportunity to of course, share this information with the wider world, but also go on that personal journey with the diarists. And you can do this. I'll be sending the link to everybody. So that's one element of what we do on the transcription tool. We also have Indigenous language lists that are, again, treasures, absolute treasures that we have at the library. A little more complicated for people to transcribe because of their handwriting, but also the fact that we're taking an Indigenous language into English means that there's definitely variations, and also within Indigenous communities there is sometimes debate in terms of whether that word indeed is the English translation. So that's possibly one of the most fascinating volunteer projects we have at the moment are our Indigenous language lists and discovering those languages. Again, that's something we're asking volunteers to do, and it's crowdsourced, so you'll be able to have a look at that too. And that might be something you'd like to pass on to your volunteers in this time, in this strange time of working from home, as that is available to them. So I'm going to stop right there for a moment with sharing the screen and say, just to check in, am I loud enough? And do you have any questions? Oh, okay. What platform did you use for the transcribing role? That's a really, really good question. So we received, as I said, significant funding from the state government for something called our Digital Excellence Program. And there is a lot of transcribing platforms out there. Some that will just automate the text for you and then you just do text correction. That's what Trove does at the National Library. Now, the platform we've used Drupal, and we've constructed it on site here at the library using Drupal. But for any of those IT things, then I can put you in touch with the wonderful Jenna who works here, so you can ask more of those questions. Any other questions at this stage, or comments or requests? Okay. Ooh, loud and clear and interesting. Oh, good. Thank you, Anthea. Thank you, Sky. And thank you, Natalie. Okay, so that was the transcription tool. Sometimes I call it the vexed tool, or I did for a while, because at the beginning, asking a person with limited digital literacy to log on and do that thing where you have to verify whether you're a robot or not didn't go down well. So you will find, I know, regardless of what your projects are, your volunteers are your first line of defense against whatever problems you've got. They don't hold back, they tell you what they think. And so indeed, that was very useful with the tool to have volunteers on site to tell us what was wrong, what they wanted and what they found difficult. Because then when we had those off-site volunteers, the people that were logging on from Canada, Brisbane, wherever, internationally and interstate, weren't as forthcoming with their problems. They just might disengage and not continue. And it doesn't have the stickiness of a task if you're being asked to prove that you're not a robot. Okay, so that was our first digital program that I spoke to. Now, I said I was going to talk about 3, and we are 20 minutes in, so we're actually on track. The next project I'm going to talk about is Amplify. Amplify is our oral history project for volunteers. And I'll show you, again, like I did before, I'll show you a slide so you'll get a sense of what the website looks like, and then I'll come back to me. So I'm going to talk about Amplify, and then after I've talked about Amplify, we'll pause again for questions, and then I'm going to talk to you about our Wikipedia project. So Amplify, Wikipedia, and then if we have time, I've got some Instagram information that we've been using that helps with recognising volunteers. Okay, so I'm going to move now to Amplify, but it'll come up to the transcription tool first. I'm saying this all out loud because it's easier if I say it out loud. Okay. Okay, there you go, Amplify. So isn't that lovely? Bringing together the voices of New South Wales for you to explore and listen to and transcribe. So this is different from the transcription tool in a sense of, rather than our manuscript collection, it's the precious, precious oral history collection that we have at the State Library, which lends itself beautifully to remote volunteering because of that digital component of the audio, but then the typing with the transcription. So this, with the manuscripts that we looked at before in the transcription tool, not a very diverse group use the transcription tool. They need to, because it's quite limiting in the sense that they need to be able to read and read handwriting, and they need to have the energy to type it all out from scratch. So it's quite labour intensive, but it's rewarding. Now with Amplify, you need headphones, and then you read the text, which is, it's basically, if anybody had those little records, golden books, where you play the record and then you would read along with every word. If anybody liked doing that as a child, I'm showing my age here, then Amplify is a website that your volunteers would really enjoy. Also, there's the history of oral history, the fact that for millennium, for humanity, that's what we do. We tell stories, we share stories, and that oral tradition of history. It's quite compelling listening and really enjoyable. So it's a little bit more attractive to a variety of people because it doesn't have handwriting, but it still is exclusive. And this was what I was talking before about digital accessibility and inequity. You still need to be able to read English relatively fluently. You need to have access to the internet, and you need to have headphones. Now, sometimes, as we know, areas of our community, they don't have this. So it is not as diverse as I would like it to be, but that's just something that as a whole in humanity we're working on in terms of digital access. But where it does have a diversity is in the content of the oral history stories that it has. I'm going to share my screen again because I believe that photo that we looked at is from the Rainbow Archives, which is the LGBTQI oral history of New South Wales. So the Rainbow Archive is in there, and that's had a lot of attention in terms of the importance of that story. And that's attracted, because of that content, that's attracted a particular area of the community with that volunteer focus. Other ways of the diversity in that project is we have the Islamic Faith of New South Wales, again, aiming for a more of a diverse volunteer cohort. The Australian Dance Company, so we get the artists, people interested in dance. The Snowy Mountain Bushfires from 2003, so quite topical in terms of, although it's 2003, bushfires, extremely topical in current affairs. And then very niche, we have the bridge builders of Sydney Harbour, and Emily Sparks from LEAP and I listened to some of it yesterday, and it's really quite marvellous. So I recommend Amplify for everybody. It's fun and it's lovely for volunteers, and also it's a nice gap in terms of another task that they might be doing, because then you can let the story wash over you. A lot of it is complete and it doesn't require editing, or it'll say that. But then every so often you'll catch a word that is incorrect. And because it's crowdsourced, it's continuously changing. So that can be a positive, but also that can probably niggle at some volunteers as well. And you'll find that with all online volunteering, you have to have a strong constitution to, first of all, log on and get through proving you're a robot, but then sometimes having your work corrected can be a little annoying. Now, just to give you a little bit more about how we came at Amplify, this wasn't developed by the library. We're using existing technology that's out there, and then we say it's powered by the State Library, but that means it's our content that we have uploaded to this, this program that is very easy to use and quite addictive. We're very keen for people to be on here, and we're trying to promote it. One of the negatives of it is, as I said, the diversity element of it, which is brilliant from the library's perspective. Sometimes that means if we're requesting volunteers from those communities, we are just expecting that it will just be completed. And when you go in there, you'll see that some areas, such as the Snowy Mountains, has interested people more than particular areas. So that's something that can be a danger with digital volunteering, is that they're not on site and you can't direct them, and it's at their whim in terms of their interests. So that's something I'm going to be definitely looking at, and a challenge I have in my role here is to invite areas of these communities and say, please jump online and do the Golden Book. I shouldn't say Golden Book because that's it's probably some copyright about mentioning Golden Book as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so you get to see more of me and we check our time. So are there any questions at this stage on Amplify?
I have a question.
Yes.
How did you manage volunteers when it was all crowdsourced? Do you have any tips of how you connected to volunteers when they were so diverse and spread out and not really as easy to contact as traditional volunteers?
That's a great question, Em. There is also a comment saying that they found that Sky found the golden books were fun and interesting. So Sky, maybe you could jump online and start to amplify. That would be really good. Okay, how have we challenged with it? One of the dangers of being a big cultural institution with sandstone and fancy lead line is that we just think people are going to come to us. And I've definitely fell into this trap in my time here. You know, it's lovely. Why wouldn't you want to jump online and coordinate and do work for us for free? Come on, jolly hockey sticks, do it. And as I said before, that's not always happening. And definitely with our Indigenous communities, we need to invite people. We need to use that, use the strength of our organisation and our credibility, but also be humble and ask for help. So reaching out to those networks, finding individuals. Now that might be within my personal network, that might be within staff. So that's one way to approach it. Who do you know? We've got a great publicity team that we have here. That's another way, using social media, using Flickr, Instagram, Facebook. And every time John Valance, our state librarian, goes on the radio, he will mention these digital projects, and we see a huge spike in terms of participation. But then that will only be a huge spike into what area that media has gone to. Now, if that's within our national broadcasting, then we know that has a particular following and a particular audience, but that sometimes is an area that we've already covered. They're your usual museum and gallery and library participants. So I think when you go down this line of what works, long-term education works. Long-term, our learning programs work that go out to regional areas of New South Wales, that go out to the broader reaches of Greater Sydney, and they get people excited, and children and families excited about volunteers, excited about the collection, and then they go volunteering when they feel that they have that in their world and their time. So I think you still, even though you're digital and you can do that social media side, Em, which you did ask, that human component of engaging with a staff member or the collection directly is what we need to do. But it's a big challenge. I think all volunteer coordinators face that, because you've got your natural volunteer that's got money, that's got time, and that has interest, and that's not everybody. So it is something I think all volunteer coordinators, I'm sure we're all thinking that and nodding right now. We've always got a hat on, thinking how do we diversify, how do we hook people in, and how do we make people who it's a struggle for, and sometimes with you, travel is a big thing as well. How do you get to the site? How do you pay to travel for volunteering? So one element of digital volunteering is that you can remove that. So that's been another positive. I've gone off on a rant, Em.
It's an interesting rant.
Good. So do you feel that answers?
Yeah, I do.
Question with another question? It's a massive one.
Yeah. Is there anybody else in the audience who has any questions for Em? Just pop them in the chat if you do.
This is tea. And right now, if we were meeting in person, I would be saying, does everybody have a cup of tea? Do you all need a cup of tea? We do the stretch as well and get up from your desk. Okay, so we've covered 2 digital programs so far. I've got a third I'd like to talk to you about. And I'll bring up the screen. It's Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is quite exciting. I find Wikipedia quite exciting, and I've been saying that around the office. I've been saying Wikipedia is quite exciting, and then there's this, sometimes there's an awkward pause. Then sometimes another person will have a huge smile on their face and say, yes, yes, and they totally get it and they totally understand. I'm going to tell you why Wikipedia is really exciting with the use of a slide and through the magic of me talking to you. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, there you go. So exciting. Wikipedia, there it is. I think by now we've all seen it. This is another reason why it's really exciting. It's because we all know Wikipedia. We've all been on Wikipedia, we've all used Wikipedia. Maybe we've all watched an episode of The Crown and then Googled instantly whether that really did happen and we get to see Queen Elizabeth. There is a direct correlation and spike between people Googling historical facts about Queen Elizabeth and episodes of the Netflix series. Another reason why Wikipedia is exciting. From a volunteer coordinator perspective, it is very interesting because it is all volunteers. I think they have a handful. Someone, if anyone knows out there on our chat group how many paid staff they have, it's a handful. And then everything else, the content, the way it's mediated, is all volunteer and crowdsourced. Now this, when we touch on what Em was asking about how do you generate people in terms of promoting this and engagement, that is something that Wikipedia is working on because they have a huge challenge. It's North America based, and the volunteer, percentage-wise, the greater majority of the volunteers are white, male, and North American. And what this means is that there's a particular tone and there's a particular worldview when you have that, when you have a glut of one type of volunteer. And that's, I think, at the heart of all our volunteer programs is we may have a majority of a particular personality or a particular part of our community, and that can skew sometimes what the volunteer program is doing. So more diversity is always wanted within your volunteer sphere. So on a global scale, Wikipedia has addressed this by targeting international Wikipedians and female Wikipedians. And that's what you refer to yourself as. You can be a Wikipedian. Fancy title. They've gone a grassroots approach, which is they will hold editathons, and they will do that again. Interestingly, it's a digital platform, but then they find ways to have that human connectedness. And an editathon is often site-specific, and you have the Wikipedians, sort of the mentors are there, and then you ask people to come and you run a workshop. So even though it's digital, it has that human side. Now, that's really difficult at the moment, and that just shows you that don't put too much store and salvation in a digital program in COVID-19 times. I would say that's one of my tips or tricks. Don't put too much store in it. Don't try and put everything online right now, thinking that that's going to be the answer, because even Wikipedia says, actually, no, we still need people. We need that human side, and also cups of tea, I must say. Because when we had the Wikipedia editathon here at the library, there was lots of cups of tea. I was a bit worried about the laptops and the cups of tea, but it was okay. All laptops survived. Now, another challenge with digital volunteering, which I've highlighted it before, was that element of crowdsourcing and owning your work. And the fact that as soon as it's crowdsourced, and Wikipedia is a great example, is that it can be edited by another person, and that can cause quite a lot of frustration. So I've got something quite cute up at the moment, which is the first fleet. Now, as Australians, we're well aware of what the First Fleet is, and that the State Library holds the First Fleet journals. So again, something that we are very, very proud of, a real treasure that we have here in the state of New South Wales. And the website, the page you're looking at the moment was created by or edited by one of our curators. So they wrote the title and they put in all the details. And then when they woke up in the morning, it had been deleted. And they had said British colonial First Fleet. And our curator got on and deleted that and went back to First Fleet. And this went on because the moderator, the person that was editing it, was in North America and said that the First Fleet, from their perspective, was, and you can see this in the byline down here on the page, is the United States First Fleet, is what they refer to as the United States Navy. So just that simple interaction can show you that Wikipedia is working. So I suppose at the moment it's an uphill battle to have more of an international tone to Wikipedia. It's also a real challenge for our curators here at the library. I mean, we hold the original diaries, we hold many of the manuscripts, and we are seen as an authoritative voice on the history of New South Wales. Who is this person? And I suppose that's why Wikipedia is exciting, that that's one of its challenges, but also one of the great delights in that, in the sense that there is that rigorous debate. And then, of course, if you go to the bottom of First Fleet, you'll see all of the citations. That's another exciting element of Wikipedia. We've all had those conversations where someone will say, my children in particular will say, I don't trust Wikipedia, I'm not allowed to use it. I'm not allowed to use it as a resource. I'm not allowed to use it as a reference. It's not true, or it changes too much. And so there is a push for cultural institutions such as the State Library, but also not-for-profit organisations, to engage with Wikipedia and make those connections with the information that you hold and place that on Wikipedia. And so we know that we have, at the library, we have over 1 million hits to Wikipedia, to our State Library collection. So our internet hits are higher in Wikipedia than they are on our independent website. They will come via Wikipedia to our collection, more so than they would, say, using the catalogue. Now, this would possibly be the case with everybody right now, everybody that's all these participants. Do you have a Wikipedia component for your organisation? Are you able to put it up there? You would be able to put it up there if you have an annual report, or if you've been reported on in the media, or you would look at those PDFs that have been digitised that you might have online. And that would be sufficient for you to create your Wikipedia profile and find other links in terms of what you might do within human services, social services, aged care. You could use those terms and phrases. Volunteering. You could say, there are so many ways that you can weave in what your organisation does onto Wikipedia, and you could ask your volunteers to do that. Or indeed, you could do that as trying it out, to try out your digital literacy, to see what online volunteering is like. So I think it's exciting. The next image I'm going to show you is, as I was saying before, engaging with, asking these big institutions, these big sandstone institutions, to engage with Wikipedia, to give it that authoritative note and to strengthen the connections. One project is #KnowMyName, and you can get a t-shirt. This was an exhibition at the National Gallery of Australia. And Know My Name is that female artists, when asked, the Australian public is asked for, name me some Australian female artists, Margaret Olley is about all you get, and then it gets a bit fuzzy. And so Know My Name was an exhibition held at the National Gallery, and then there was an online component, also merch, as you can see from the t-shirts. There was an online component with Wikipedia to promote, because it's not only they have a dearth in terms of diversity of the people that are entering the information, but as I said before, with Amplify, we have a beautiful, diverse range of collections, but we may only have one subset of volunteers. Like the bridge builders, for example, I don't know how many people are interested in bridges. Jump online, have a look. But if it's niche, then it's hard to capture. The problem we have with female artists and representation of female voices is that they're not there on Wikipedia. It's just I think the name is there, but it'll be in red. And you click on it and then there's no information. And so Know My Name is an attempt to say, get online, let's know those names, let's fill that information. And from the library's perspective, that's saying, what collection items do we have that we can have connected to Wikipedia, National Gallery, Art Gallery of New South Wales, so all of those institutions, but individuals who are interested in contemporary art can jump on board as well. And so this next image is that human side of a digital connection. Oh heavens, people were getting very close to one another, but it was allowed at this stage. And I thought this showed diversity as well. You can see that we have a range of ages and of gender, and everyone has picked a female artist and they are writing the history of those women. And this was done on International Women's Day. Again, as I said, really good thing with promoting with volunteering. We all know it. What other event or publicity can you jump onto? So Know My Name Editathon was perfect for International Women's Day and on site. So always thinking about how you can take that publicity angle to promote that. That's always really good as well. And we did that for International Women's Day. You can't see any cups of tea in that picture, so that's good. Now, have I got to the end of talking about Wikipedia, stopped and I'm shared, and any feedback or questions? I need to stay close to my computer. I can do that rather than going on my little journey. So I can do that. And do we have any questions? Oh, I got an oh my God, lol. That's great. I don't know Natalie, tell me, what was it? What part? Was it about the cups of tea?
I think it was about the tea and the laptops.
Yeah, don't do that. It's really bad. Okay, the other thing you shouldn't do, but I can't show it, is you shouldn't put your laptop on high places. Don't do that. That's a tip and a trick. Don't put your computer on your ironing board to make a stand-up. Yes, yeah. Don't put it on an ironing board to make a stand-up desk. It will fall off, and then you will have to ask your IT department for another computer. Speaking for a friend, not of course. And yes, Natalie has tipped her coffee all over her laptop this morning. So now that's recorded for everybody to know. That's the world of volunteer coordination. That's what we do. Now, are there any Wikipedia questions? Would you like? So I talked about the importance of it because through the diversity side of things and content, but I really do, I know, touch my face. Oh, thank you, Jed. Don't touch your face. No, I've got a hand sanitizer now. So as I said, I was talking about diversity with content and Wikipedia, but also with hand sanitizer, was requesting that you all jump online. When I make a bold statement like that, is that something that people are attracted to, or is that more like repelled? I'm wondering, I don't know how to do a poll on this, but that's what I would like to know.
think we can add a poll. We can do a poll if you like.
Let's do a poll.
So what would you like the title to be, Em?
Okay. First, so I want to do two things. Do you know if your organisation is on Wikipedia?
All right.
Okay. So, thank you, Ronya.
Is that popping up as a poll?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
But it says that host and panelists cannot vote. So I'm not allowed to vote, and Emily, you're not allowed to vote. No Emilys are allowed to vote in this poll.
It's actually really good feedback. I'm not sure if Leap is on Wikipedia, so that's a good tip, Em.
So while we're waiting on that, while we're waiting on the poll, just for fun, just for giggles, I'll reinforce that everything I've talked about today has had an element of something that you could do. But the library, the caveat is the library is in a privileged position because we've been digitising constantly, daily, getting in there and getting all our content online, which is our raison d'etre, which is to collect but then to share. And so that makes sense just digitally. If I was to speak about other elements of it, such as Google Docs or Teams and working with volunteers like that, I think I touched on that before, which was patience, 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 and not doing anything online that had any time, that was time dependent as well. I find that that is a really good thing to consider. Now, I can see that 2 organisations have said that they're not.
I'm actually coming up. I've got results from the poll. 16 out of 17 respondents are not, and 1 is.
Ooh,
yeah.
Well, that could be a really good use of your time now. You've got your downtime, you're thinking about what ways can you engage with volunteers. Wikipedia would be a great way to do it. You could do some keyword searches on those major themes that your organisation, so should we use one as an example? Should we, let's use Leap. Let's use Leap as an example, which is what are your key things, which would be digital literacy, education, community, not-for-profit, all of those keywords, and then think what publications does Leap have online? An annual report,
yeah.
Media coverage, printed media. So you find those printed media examples, you find that annual report, you create your Wikipedia, and then someone comes and deletes it all. You go in and you do it again. And then you find other sister, like have you got any sister organisations? Are you faith-based? Are you able to look at that wider faith connection that they might have? Are you community-based? Are you council-based? What have we got on there? I know we've recently asked a volunteer to put all of the public libraries that we have in New South Wales, to put that in as, to make that in Wikidata, which is slightly different to Wikipedia, but again, listing all the public libraries in New South Wales and getting their geolocations and putting in that and then mapping that to a digital map. And so then when someone types in Stanmore Public Library, up it comes with the correct information, with a link to the Inner West Council. And so you know you've got that, again, you're weaving that authoritative voice into Wikipedia and you're strengthening that side of things. So do you think, oh, okay, so I've just had a question come in, which is, it can be overwhelming, which is very true. So my advice is to, if it is something that you are interested in, if this is piquing your interest, or you know someone in your volunteer community that is interested, the best way to start is by a citation. It's probably the simplest way of doing it. So like any online platform, you would log in, prove you're not a robot, have your email, and then you could add a citation. So you would find, the best way to do it is to find something that you're slightly interested in, that you know you might have an article about. So let's say, what's particular interest? Well, let's stick with the visual arts and the Know My Name. You could go onto a artist that you're interested in. Let's use Dorrit Black. You type her in. You could have a look at that. You go into the edit mode, and then you'll see it's like a Word document, and you can add citations if you wish. And you can't break it because someone will come along and rap you on the knuckles and delete it if it was a mistake. There is also, because it is global, because it is up there with the 10 most visited websites in the world, there are so many how-to videos, and they are so slick as well. You don't even necessarily have to do a how-to video. You just look at that edit function in Wikipedia and they hold your hand. It's quite a, it's also a masterclass in what digital volunteering should be and can be. It really is. It's very, very clever and very fun. Okay, all right, so Emma Middleton, you have to run, but thank you. I'm glad that you've got some ideas. And are there any, have I missed any questions?
I think we got each one of them.
Excellent. We have,
if you don't mind, I might pop in here because I've actually got a pretty good example as well of digital volunteering, of how LEAP is adapting to the COVID situation, which might be relevant to some of the volunteer managers and coordinators here, because we have had to adapt our entire program and model, as we did offer one-on-one digital tech help through volunteers and for learners, so people who don't have basic digital skills. Obviously with the COVID situation, it makes it very difficult to run one-on-one tech help sessions when we're not allowed to gather to protect people. And so just for a little bit of inspiration, something that LEAP's done is we've kind of relaunched our model a little bit, and we're now offering free help still. It's always been free. We've got a new little army of tech mates that are coming from all over the country for volunteering digitally. So what they'll do is they'll connect via phone or video chat to learners in their homes, so the learners don't have to leave their homes, and they'll be able to get help, basic digital stuff. Some of the most common things that we're sort of pushing are things like online banking to prevent people having to go to the bank, because we actually have had people we've heard of leaving their houses because it's an essential service, going to the bank, using public transport, which is so dangerous. But if you don't have a choice, it's very hard to, make that decision to stay at home. So yeah, if just a shout out, just a call out, if anybody has any volunteers that unfortunately aren't able to be mobilized in any way at the moment, of course, the ideas that Em has given us are so valuable. I've really enjoyed all the ideas that you've given us.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Would you like to see my extras? I had some extras.
Yeah.
It was our Instagram. We had an Instagram. Sorry, everybody. Have I lost you?
No, we're still here.
Oh, good. Hi. I am just bringing it up. Okay, so as we know, National Volunteers Week is coming up. And so yesterday there was a lot of talk within the cultural institutions. I'm part of a network of volunteer coordinators, and talking about how we're going to acknowledge National Volunteers Week. And so I've got our I've got some pictures from last year's Instagram volunteers project. And this gives me an opportunity to show you some really lovely faces that we had here. Now, can you see that? Is that okay? Right, so this is Geeta, and we asked Geeta to share what she really liked about the volunteer program or being at the State Library. And she was working with our learning team. Geeta is new to the library. I have her permission to use her photo on this. Geeta travels quite a far way to volunteer at the State Library, and currently she's not one of our digital volunteers, so she's very much on site rather than online. But we have been text messaging one another, and again, as I said at the beginning, I don't underestimate the power of a text message. I think we're all very laptop based if they're working, if you haven't dropped it from an ironing board, but the simplicity of texting and calling, I think, can be quite a relief. In terms of volunteer coordination and recognition, often, as we know, a phone call is what's required. They don't want another email in the inbox. I aim to call, we've got a team of 120 volunteers, and I aim to make a phone call regularly, I would say, and then do a little handwritten note. So I do a handwritten note probably once a fortnight and trying to get through all of our volunteers, and then a phone call I'd again be making one once a week. But those unexpected calls that aren't task related, that are more just reaching out, how are you going? And I think that sounds like something LEAP definitely does really well, and I'm sure all of you are doing elements of that as well. So I'll show you some more images. These were now twofold. It was a way of publicising the library through the volunteer program, but it was also a way to say to these individuals, we recognise you, and recognition within the volunteer program is really important. So each of these images accompanied a bio in terms of what the volunteer was doing, how long they've been here. Some people had only been there a matter of months, others years. Also, you can see from these images, something I didn't really touch on was the breadth in what a volunteer does here at the library. We have them working back of house, indeed, which you see now, and then we have them front of house. And then we have them in our very special spaces, which is another room I considered zooming from today, which is the Shakespeare room. Now, this is an image of our transcribers. These are the group that when we were looking at the Charles Soreen papers, when we were looking at the World War I diaries, you can see that this is the demographic that are attracted to transcribing, and also they also really like to wear blue and floral. So I think that brings us to our hour. I'm sorry that I went on my little dance around, and I'm sorry it wasn't always clear, but it has been such a treat to have you all come, a real treat. And for anyone who is downloading this as well afterwards, thank you very much. It's just great. So I am very, very searchable. I'm going to rephrase that. You can find me online because I work here, and I know one of the very, very most important parts of being a volunteer coordinator is being human, is being fallible, and is being candid. And so if at any point you want my opinion on anything volunteer coordinated, I would like to hear that. It's been a big treat to speak at you. It's not my normal way. By now I would have heard all of your stories. So thank you for everybody who's asking, and sorry, who's saying, oh, Sky has asked if I'm on TV. No, but I think Play School would be a lot of fun because I could do the read along book. And if we did do a transcript, heavens, we'd have to heavily edit it to make me not mention the bit about my ironing board and standing desk, so I'm going to stop ranting.
I might just give, I'll just give a little wrap up just because we've got some questions in for some logistical stuff. So to Ronya, for the transcript, we will be putting this recording online, and it will have a transcript accompanying it with captions. So if you'd like to download that, I will be sending out 2 emails at the conclusion of this webinar. One will be just a feedback that you'll get this afternoon. If you could fill that out, that would be really helpful, both for Leap and for Em, just so we can see how we did and just see how you enjoyed it today. And then also early next week, you'll get a email with a recording of the webinar, as well as a PDF document, like a resource that you can use just to follow up on what we talked about in this webinar, and so that you can share that with your volunteers, your staff members, everything like that. So yeah, on behalf of Leap, thank you so much, Em. This has been such a great session. We've got feedback rolling in, very positive. So very grateful that you were able to adapt this from being an in-person workshop to a webinar. We've had great attendance and it's been really great. So thank you.
Thank you. And when we can all be together again with physical distancing over, I'd really like to organise, if anyone's interested, a tour of the State Library. And I'd arrange for a curator talk as well. So just let me know, or Emily know after that, and I think that that could be a lot of fun.
I agree. I agree.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.